It is no secret that many D&D games fall apart after just a few sessions. However, online D&D games are even more likely to fall apart. So today we're going to discuss both why this happens and what you can do to ensure your game doesn't suffer a similar fate. By the way, our next Kickstarter, Lairs and Legends 2, is launching April 2nd. If you'd like to get 2 massive books filled with 5th edition adventures spanning levels 1 to 20, over 100 new monsters, puzzles, traps, standalone encounters, and other GM resources for your games, you won't want to miss this. It will also have revamped rule sets for naval combat, rewards and recognition, insanity, and illness and diseases. Lairs and Legends 2 and Loot and Lore 2 will be available as PDFs, physical books, and a Foundry VTT module, and will even have Kickstarter exclusive alt covers. These books are the perfect 5th edition GM companion to help you reduce your prep time and yet still run amazing games your players will love. If you'd like to take some of the frustration and heavy lifting out of being a game master, click that link below to follow Lairs and Legends 2 and get notified when it goes live on April 2nd. And if you're watching this video way after the fact, you'll be able to order the books at the link below as well. Okay, now on to what you can do to position your online tabletop role-playing game for success. Number 1, create a human connection. I suspect that a large reason many online games fall apart is that they don't create a human connection among the players and game master. Now, what do I mean by human connection? It's this sense of camaraderie, sure, but before even that, it's seeing the other people in your game as just that. People just like you with feelings and desires and other stuff, I suppose. When we can connect with people on this basic level, it begins to form a bond that makes it far less likely that someone is just going to leave or stop showing up to your game sessions without saying a word or giving any explanation. I think all of us have probably been there, right? Ultimately, this bond might form friendships, which is awesome, I can attest to, and I would opine the desired state for any tabletop role-playing game, online or otherwise. If you start by playing with mostly strangers and then through the medium of a TTRPG can develop lasting friendships, well, that's amazing by itself, naturally, but also makes it far more likely that you're all going to have better game sessions. If you have better game sessions, you're probably not gonna lose players quite so much. So, how do you establish this human connection? I mean, it's hard online, but the number one way you're going to do this is by using cameras and voice. When you can see the other players, their expressions, the emotions on their faces, and interact with them in a way that approximates being together in person around a table as much as possible, you're gonna be far more likely to establish this human connection. If cameras are off, or worse, you play by text only, the chances of capturing that connection are slim. Furthermore, it helps the game master run a better game when they can see the players' faces. You can see when someone is waiting to say something or got cut off by someone else, or when a player is disengaged, or when they are enjoying themselves. These visual cues are invaluable for a game master while they run their game, and you just cannot get them in a reliable, instantaneous manner without cameras. Luke, I don't look pretty on camera. Look, none of us look pretty on camera. Do you think I'm on camera because I look pretty? Yeah, I'm on camera because I can't write. Actually, I'm a pretty good writer. I don't know why I'm on camera. I like sitting in a room by myself talking to myself. Number 2, use the right tools. Okay, you're playing D&D online, so it's clear that you're gonna need some tools and technology to assist with that. At a bare minimum, you're gonna need a good camera and headset and microphone to see and hear each other. And then a video call tool such as Zoom, Discord, or Skype. Playing theater of the mind and rolling physical dice, that's all you really need, and you can have amazing fun with nothing else. However, most folks playing online use a virtual tabletop such as Foundry VTT, Fantasy Grounds, or Roll20. And if that's you, you need a few more items. First, you'll need to pick up the virtual tabletop you'll use. My personal experience has been with Roll20 and Foundry VTT, and I'm currently in the process of shifting my online games over to Foundry VTT as I found it to be a far superior platform. If you want a breakdown of features and options for the various VTTs so that you can choose which one is right for you, there are various articles and videos online that will help with that. I'm not gonna break them all down today. I'm just gonna tell you that Foundry VTT is very nice. And not only is Foundry VTT exceptional, but there is a massive library of mods that you can use to customize the virtual tabletop and make it do exactly what you need. Hence why I'm moving there myself. And frankly, I'm tired of Roll20 breaking all the time on me. Next, you're gonna need digital maps for your games. Now, you could make these yourself with software such as Incarnate, and that would be my top pick for map making software, by the way. But making your own maps takes time, which many game masters just don't have. So that leaves you with grabbing maps for free online, provided they give you the rights to use them, of course. Or you can purchase professionally made maps from online retailers, such as the map packs that we have over on the dmlair.com. This saves me tons of time, which for me more than justifies the expense, and gives me a professionally made map that is way better than something I could make myself or find for free online. Then what I do, and this is huge, is design the adventure around the map. That's right, first I get the map that works for what I had in mind, and then I actually create the adventure. This ensures that the map 100% works for my adventure. If you design the adventure first, well, good luck finding the perfect map for it. You're gonna be back to drawing it yourself and spending a bunch of time doing that. And it probably won't look as good as if you just got one from a professional person online. You know, professional cartographers, they're good. Third, you're gonna need digital tokens to place on your maps. Now, you can create these yourself with online token stamp tools using images that you should technically make sure you have the rights to use, of course. And I know we all do that. I do. Don't. I definitely do. You should probably, Zach, take this out of the video. I'm gonna get in trouble. I have so much artwork that I have purchased to make tokens from. Wow. Artwork that I have not just purchased, but commissioned artists specifically to make. However, making your own tokens still takes time. So I've personally found that purchasing tokens online, pre-made tokens, to be the best bet. I have bought all the tokens for Tome of Beasts 1, 2, and 3, Creature Codex, and many of the base 5th edition tokens in Roll20. That way, I can just search for what I need and quickly add it to my game. Now, I'm sure I'm gonna end up doing the exact same thing in Foundry VTT because we're moving over to that virtual tabletop. It's totally worth it because it saves me so much time. I just search for the token, find it, plop it on the map, and then I go. Yeah, and it's an expense, yes, but I mean, not only are you saving time, but a beautiful token definitely enhances gameplay, in my opinion. Now, there are probably many other online tools that you might find handy in your game, but I think we've covered our bases at this point. Everything else is just gravy, but please, do let us know down in the comments what online tools you've found that really help out. Oh, and this is probably a good time to ask you to give me a thumbs up if you're finding the information in this video useful, and share the video too with fellow game masters. Remember, every time you share this video, you save a cute little kitten's life. And when you subscribe, a puppy gets a doggy snack. So do your part to help out our cute, cuddly little friends. Yeah. Number 3, schedule for success. I have discussed this quite a bit over the years, so I'm not gonna belabor the point here, but the scheduling spiral of death is responsible for more games fizzling out than perhaps any other reason. Thus, these are the steps to follow to minimize the chances the same thing happens to your game. Number 1, pick a reoccurring day and time that works for all players most of the time. For instance, every other Sunday at 4 p.m. Now, I personally have found having games every 2 weeks works the best. It's often enough that meaningful game progress can be made and everyone's gaming sweet tooth can be satisfied. However, it's not so often that it interferes with all of the other things folks usually have going on in their lives. Number 2, when a player can't make a scheduled game session, you play anyway. Do not reschedule, do not skip the session. This is the #1 mistake that leads to the scheduling spiral of death. First, playing regardless encourages players to attend because they know they're gonna miss out otherwise. And using the psychological principle of loss aversion to your advantage is huge. Second, many people who just don't want to play for whatever reason, maybe a new mod for Baldur's Gate 3 came out or something, I don't know. Whatever reason it is, they're usually going to give an excuse, such as having a scheduling conflict, being too busy, something came up. It's what we do in our overly polite society. Instead of just telling people the truth. Yo, dude, Diablo 4's out, baby. I gotta play. So, why would you reschedule or skip a game for a player who perhaps doesn't want to play anyway? Number 3, I send out a reminder to players the week of the game session to remind them that we're having the game. This not only reminds and confirms it for them, but it also gives them the chance to respond with any questions or let you know if they will be late or just can't make it. Now, frankly, most of the time, my players don't respond to this email or Discord message, but I'd pay that no bother. It's the reminder for them that's the most important part. I'm not looking for them to confirm that they're going to be there. Just letting them know. And guess what? They magically show up every week. I should probably calm down, huh? Number 4, when a player drops out of the game, you find a new player. Friend or stranger, it doesn't matter, but you must replace the player. If you don't, you'll find your number of players dwindle over time until you simply don't have enough to keep playing. Now, the system I've used to great success over the years is an on-call player system, whereby, that's what I call it, the on-call player system. I basically have prospective players who would like to join the game, but who can't because I have a cap of 5 players in my games, and they join a wait list. And then when a regular player can't make the game, the prospective player joins for just that game session. Now, the advantages of this are twofold. First, it helps to keep your game sessions full with the number of characters needed for the adventure. And second, it allows you to test out new players before they join the group permanently. I've been running D&D 5th edition games for nearly 10 years now, I think. And using these steps has made it so that not one of my games has fizzled out. Games have ended, yes, but only because I, as the game master, decided to end them for whatever reason. Of course, there are other contributing factors to games succeeding over the long run, but I do feel that proper scheduling is huge and cannot simply be neglected. Number 4. Prepare the virtual tabletop. Perhaps the most time-consuming part of playing online over playing in person is that you need to get your virtual tabletop ready for play. Now, for our purposes here, I'm going to assume that you've already made your adventure. This video is not about how to make a D&D adventure. If you need help on that, I have several videos on the topic already, including a D&D adventure creation playlist. Instead, we're talking about how to set your adventure up in your virtual tabletop prior to play. These are the key things you need to set up prior to play. Number 1, the maps. At a bare minimum, place your digital map in the virtual tabletop. If you're using Fog of War and not dynamic lighting, you're done. Otherwise, add dynamic lighting. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but it's kind of cool. Number 2, the tokens. Place your digital tokens for both the characters and monsters on the map. Ideally, you want to add the exact number of monster tokens you'll use in the adventure to the map in the places where you're gonna need them. If the barracks has 5 orcs and 1 ogre in it, place those tokens there. Now, what I like to do is make monster tokens hidden or place them on the Game Master layer so that players can't see them by default. This allows me to describe the room first, which I usually do before mentioning bad guys, and even adjust the number or position of foes if desired before players can actually see what's there. Number 3, game props. You should ideally create handouts in the virtual tabletop for 2 things. First, treasure, especially magic items. This helps the party keep track of what they have and allows the game masters to see this at a glance instead of having to dig through character sheets, which may or may not be kept up to date. Like, it's super valuable when I'm giving out loot to know what they already have and just be able to look at the list really quickly. Furthermore, in the case of magic items, the handouts describe what the magic items do, unless you're using a game system like Pathfinder 2, where they're all conveniently stored in archives of Nethys and not behind a paywall. Second, you want to have handouts for important information the group discovers. That way, instead of reading it and waiting for players to take notes, you can just reveal a handout in the virtual tabletop. It's faster and makes for handy reference in the future. Number 4, music. Whether you're playing in person or online, adding music is a key element for increasing immersion and improving the game experience. I suspect that most VTTs have a music player integrated into them, and if they don't, they should. Or you can even get music player mods with special features, as in the case of Foundry VTT. You see why Foundry is so cool? Now, what I personally like to do is have a variety of tracks added to the player that will suit most situations. Battle music, of course, and then environmental music, caves, outdoors, rain, etc. And then music for certain moods such as suspense or horror. Then, during the game, I simply play a track from my library that is appropriate for the situation at hand. Once the library of tracks is set up, this minimizes game prep, making it the perfect solution for me. And by the way, our Layers and Legends 2 Kickstarter will have a Foundry VTT pack that will have maps for all the adventures and tokens for all the monsters. You'll get dynamic lighting, journal entries for the adventure, the works. We will literally do all the work for you so that you can just install and start playing. Of course, if you just can't wait, we also have Foundry VTT packs available over on the DM Lair store. Now, walking through how exactly to set up any given VTT, such as Foundry VTT or Roll20, is way beyond the scope of this video. However, there are tons of articles and videos out there for the virtual tabletop you choose. They are just a Google search away and will give you step-by-step instructions. Number 5, focus on a smooth game. There are lots of things that can lead to a subpar, unenjoyable game, but I have found that a huge contributor to a great game is running a smooth game. This is the game that flows, where gameplay continues with little interruption, and you can spend your time actually playing and not waiting for something, such as the game master trying to look something up in the book, or finding the token, or not getting this thing to work, or something. This is true for both in-person and online games. But when playing online, here are the major things that can help you run a smooth game. Number 1, optimize communication. Ensure that there are rules of behavior in place so that players don't talk over each other or interrupt each other. Make sure that everyone's audio is working properly, and ideally, players will make sure their audio and video are good to go before the game session. This is like the first thing I do at the beginning of every online game session. Just make sure I can hear everybody. Make sure that technology is working. Constantly needing to repeat what you said because another player spoke over you, which when playing online usually means that neither person is understood by anyone, or having to troubleshoot headsets or cameras, will make for ragged gameplay. Number 2, don't let technology get in the way. As I alluded to before, I have found this especially true for the virtual tabletop. If the dice roller isn't working properly, or you can't get it to add the correct modifier, don't let that stop gameplay for 10 minutes while you troubleshoot. Either manually add the modifier or roll physical dice. But regardless of what you do, keep the game moving. You can troubleshoot after the game or when it's not your turn. One of the reasons I'm moving my games to Foundry VTT is that Roll20 constantly gives us so many problems. It's like a never-ending story of tech issues. Now, they are making improvements now that industry competition is forcing them to, but it's a case of too little too late, in my opinion. Number 3, learn your virtual tabletop. Ideally, as the game master, you're gonna learn your virtual tabletop of choice and become familiar with its features before you start running a game in it. And the same is true of the players. This will maximize the smoothness of your play experience for everyone. However, there will always be a certain amount of learning as you go, and there's nothing wrong with that. The fact is, the single best way to really understand how to use a VTT is by doing it, by running games, by playing games in it. Number 4, learn to wing it. Because the online VTT experience usually depends on digital maps, when your players go somewhere you didn't expect, you're probably not gonna have a map ready for it. Now, in person, that's not a big deal because you're just gonna draw the map on the grid like you normally would. But online, it's gonna be a lot more obvious because you won't have a beautiful map for your players. Instead, you can draw it out by hand, well, with your mouse, I suppose, unless you have one of those fancy drawing pads. You're gonna draw that out on the blank grid, which all VTTs generally have. Or you could have some generic maps set up in advance for when players go off the beaten trail. Or you could simply just revert to theater of the mind. However, what you do not want to do is pause the game for 15 minutes while you find a map, load it up, get tokens set up, and whatnot. Like, that is anathema to a smooth game. Now, there are other factors that help with running a smooth game, yes, and I in fact have an entire video on the subject if you'd like to check it out. Like, I was once in a game that was like not smooth at all. It was like, oh my word. And it inspired me to make a dedicated video about the topic. Now, if you have any other suggestions for preparing to run an online game, please let us know down in the comments. Also, don't forget to follow our Layers and Legends 2 Kickstarter at the link below. You do not want to miss out on the special deals that will be available as part of the Kickstarter. Now, if you'd like to learn how to prepare a pre-written game, such as from a module or standalone adventure, check out this video right here. And until next time, happy game mastering.